we loved you, but you are actually making us to be paupers, in the sense that the things that you are doing are bringing down our businesses, and we cannot be able to operate. It is because the Kenyan government is actually taking people for a ride. And this government need really to realize that they are not serving their own interest. They are serving Kenyans. Right now, I can tell you, there are so many families who are suffering because of what is happening. You cannot actually talk about, like now, the fuel.
Yes.
Do you know why they have actually reduced the diesel and kerosene by 2 bob? It's because of the heat that has been there.
Yes.
Many people actually asked those few questions. And just to cover themselves, they came and they said, we are reducing the diesel by 2 bob and the kerosene by 2 bob, and the petrol is going to remain constant.
Yeah.
And they are talking about that we have done a subsidy.
Yes.
Like on a diesel for around 20 shillings. The question that we are asking, they told us, where did they get the money from? It is actually on the railway development fund. The other time we were here, we asked, how comes this formula? You remember?
Yes,
I remember. That is where we came and we said, this formula need to be relooked.
Yes.
And you know, yesterday when I looked at the former Prime Minister, and I think that I liked it now, and I'm liking what he is doing right now.
Yes.
I don't know the truth. It will come out.
Yes.
But one day, my wife told me something, and I keep quoting some of her wisdom.
Yes.
She told me something. When you see smoke,
know there is fire.
know there is fire.
Yes.
You may not be seeing fire,
yes,
but the chances there is fire there is very high.
Yes.
When you hear something being said,
no, there's actually some rot somewhere there.
Correct, there is. And I looked and followed, especially the dossier that the Prime Minister gave yesterday. And I can tell you, that thing is going to bring things out. And one of the things I know, give it to the former Prime Minister.
Yes.
He does his research. And when he speaks, there is something that he talks about.
But if you look at the former Prime Minister, I'm trying to find the right words to say this. The former Prime Minister is an interested party in the energy sector, both oil and gas. Am I right?
Yes.
So should we take everything he says? Because he could be an interested party, he's not gotten contracts within this because of the selected, and now he's crying foul.
Let's give it 2 things. True fact, he's an interested party in the fact that first, he's the watchdog. 2, he's an insider, and part of that system that has also hurt the country.
He's part of the cartel.
He's part of it, because all the players in the industry don't play clean. What happened, for example, when they were doing the subsidies? Did his companies also get the subsidies in the last regime? And why wasn't it a matter of concern for him? It hurts now. It's good when it hurts. Then you send, there's this very wild thing you say, if you want to know something about where people are stealing, look for one of the thieves who has been left out of the deal. And you get them, and you will expose the thief. This is now, he's one of those guys who is actually been locked out of the eating table. And he's right, he's doing his role, and we are happy that he's doing this. We needed this more than 5 years ago. We had nobody to ask the questions. For once, I give it to him. And I'm saying he will do the right thing. He has, from all those angles, doing the right thing. Now, Fred, let me just go back. The things that came with you mentioned this lady.
Yes.
From your look, does she ooze a billion? Does she ooze a shilling?
She doesn't. I asked my wife a question, and I played that clip to her.
I asked her, okay,
if I've lost 17 billion shillings, is this the face that I would have? 17 billion shillings is not 2 shillings.
Far from it.
Yes.
the image I get as a journalist is of she's more towards hawking. Sweating, a billionaire sweating in the streets, struggling to explain. First of all, as communicators, the person who framed that story failed in one thing. If I come to you and you allege that I do this, I deal in oil of 17 billion shillings in this business. First of all, I'll ask you, where is your office? Where is your infrastructure? Let's see the structure that you've operated on for this long. You don't import 17 billion shillings worth of oil in the streets, on the pavements, on the doorsteps, and sweating profusely. And even the finesse of a billionaire cannot allow you to wipe out sweat with your hand like that. It's lacking. What you
there
say?
was just something. There
Very
was
wrong.
just something that did not fit. We are not saying that she did not do or she did not import the 17 billion shillings oil. We are not saying that because we do not have the documents, we do not have the facts. It's a possibility. She said that she's been doing this business for the last 30 years. So there is a possibility she's been doing this business. I know the courts will finally come up with that. But there was something in that picture that just, either she's a very simple lady or she has very strong emotions in the sense that if I lost 17 billion shillings, I'll probably be bawling and crying on screen. But she's...
You're afraid, You see, Kenya has systems,
Yes.
especially in terms of procurement. Today, we have seen like the people who are bringing milk.
Yes.
Would you just wake up and you start importing? Must get a license.
Yes.
Fuel, oil, they are saying, it is one of the, it's what drives the economy.
Yes.
It is one of the things that you are supposed to have valid licenses for you to bring fuel.
She said she didn't know she needed.
Then let me ask you a
Yes.
question. If she didn't know, how did it happen that even without a license, that in the first place you can be given, you can be allowed to even transact the things that it is transacting? I can tell you, and this one you'll come and see. And we'll still start getting the facts. This is steady. Slowly, it's looking like another cancer thing. And with some few men, and that's why we are saying, at least it is good that one man who has been left out, he has come out now, gun raising.
Yes.
And he wants at least now to bring the other
The whole house of cards down.
Yes, out.
Yes.
Because there are several things already outright. You can see there is something which is not right. You cannot be in the business for several years.
30 years, actually.
30 years, and you don't know that you need to have some licenses. That is a pure lie.
What she was saying, even the importation of oil, this oil was not meant for the Kenyan market. And the ship was not supposed to dock. It was in the, it's like, you know, you buy oil because she says the license that she has is for trading. She can buy all kinds of commodities. So she had bought the oil as a commodity and it was offshore. It wasn't meant to dock in Kenya. It's the Kenyan authorities who forced the ship to dock. And by forcing the ship to dock, then now she gets into the position where she's at.
She will tell you, I'll tell you, Fred, check these words. Not in a million years, that lady did not import anything. She was just a face of some cartel and deep in the Ministry of Energy. The question then comes, where is the leadership of the ministry and by extension the leadership of the country? Is the president held captive by some of his allies? Is he unable to move? Does he have leg room? Can he not act against these guys? Because he should have called today, in terms of taking leadership and restoring confidence that you're in charge, he should have actually said, CS Churchill, step aside. you can make him step aside like Kibaki would write a statement and say, today I'm happy that Kiraitu has resigned. Kiraitu is shocked that I did not resign. You resign on their behalf. You just call a press conference and
on behalf of the
and
CS.
say thank you very much for your service. In the meantime, there's this. Two, does Churchill have any conscience? A man who recklessly says 300 million, 300 shillings, that man does not feel the pain of the ordinary person. Does he have any conscience that I have done the wrong thing at the wrong time when Kenyans, everybody is crying, and I'm just gleefully speaking and not even committed to explain as to the taxpayer that this is what it is. If he had conscience, then he would actually do the honorable thing. Walk out. Not even take a government vehicle from the office. Just walk down the lift and say, I've thrown up in the towel. I cannot manage this thing. So this is exactly. And this is now pervasive in very many sectors, that the people the president has put in charge. And the question is, they look like he's helpless. There's a sense of helplessness that you see on the face of the president. And then the other problem, as he's helpless, he's trying to do everything. He's like the only man in the room who knows what to do. And then in that kind of sense, you create paralysis, even when these guys are also trying to not to do the right thing.
They're actually I think he's talking to his government right now. I think they were holding a 2-day yesterday and today, talking to the CSS, the PSS, telling them, hey guys, you need to pull up your socks.
They need to. Some of them are actually throwing mud into our faces. Their body demeanor. They're just saying, you can go to hell. I looked at the man called Murkomen. He goes to the airport. Instead of apologizing and getting people to tell people, he's trying to blame other people. Yes, it has happened. But what are you doing about it? And he walks there as if he's so disconnected. As an afterthought, he's now trying to say, I've set up a technical committee. That technical committee is sucking up national resources, the bigger national resources that we don't have. That is an irresponsible way of dealing with these things. In fact, there's been talk that his one-time dressing like this is like a name. In $1 million. They wear from the watch, the designer clothes. These things are not said in the corridors, but they're there. Yeah. So these people are not feeling what we are feeling. They live in a bubble, and when they come down here, and that's why you're seeing this paralysis. And until the president begins to walk out of that room today, wherever he's talking to them, takes charge and said the following people I've asked the following people to go and step aside. Because 1 year on, they have not steadied the ship. They have not steadied the ship. They have just treated us to a lot of drama. This oil is the height of that drama. It's like the showstopper.
You mentioned the Uganda story. I was reading what was happening in Uganda, and I saw there was a bill that was actually passed in Parliament.
Yes.
What they were saying is that Uganda would buy oil, and since it comes through the Kenyan coast,
yes,
it would go to the port, and somehow I think it would be sold to Kenyan middlemen,
correct,
who would distribute this oil, yes, in Uganda.
Correct.
But now they would put up their own markup. So the fuel getting to Ugandan petrol station,
yes,
has a higher markup. So again, it becomes expensive for them. Is this an indicator of, if they're doing this to Uganda, what are they doing to us?
Actually, that's where we are.
You're basically a person who's affected directly because of the business you do.
I'm telling you, it is actually very difficult. And when you fight like the Ugandan government, getting to a point and saying, no, we are not going. In fact, it is affecting Kenya in a very big way. And that's where the president needs to open his eyes. I'm not saying that he has not opened,
yes,
but he needs to do things with speed, and actually to be able to come and change some of the things, like the way he is saying, that sometimes you tell someone, step aside. You know why? I can tell you the amount of money that Kenya is losing every day. It is a lot.
Through corruption.
Through corruption and the fact that when you find a whole country not wanting to trade with you, do you know there was some income that was actually coming to you? And that income, you are losing it. And at the end of the day, it is not only that country. You have seen even people like the landlocked country also. You get to, to Burundi. All these countries, they have said, well, let's look for another option. And why we are saying this is because this way of doing things, it is actually a very bad thing. One, the image is a poor image for the country, Kenya, that it is not becoming attractive again for the investors. Because even the investors themselves, you want to invest and make profit out of what you are doing. You are not just there as an NGO. You are only going and profit. It is actually the profit which is taking you there. But we find right now it is becoming so difficult to actually be able to do something productive in Kenya. You know, this government is talking about production. But do they realize when they talk about production what they mean? Is it a word that they bring about, and do they need to look at the cycle of production?
And the factors of production.
Correct.
Yes.
And this is one of the things you find. For example, you talked about the transport industry, which I am a big player in that transport industry.
Yes.
But can I tell you, our biggest driver in terms of cost is petrol and diesel.
Yes.
And I can tell you right now, I have some contracts I have to cancel. Next year, I will not renew them. The people are actually coming to me and telling me, can you actually tell us the plan that you have? In fact, it is them who are now asking me to renew. But I am the one who is telling them, I am not interested.
Because I'm basically not making anything out of this.
You know, I was telling also my wife again yesterday night, I am actually praying to God that this November, it moves a little bit faster. I'm feeling it's like it is moving very slowly.
Yes.
When I look at the amount of money that I am spending every day, literally, because of fuel, I can tell you, one vehicle, I have been fueling for the last few months, like 4 months or so. I have been fueling one vehicle at 5,000. Today, as we speak, that vehicle, I am fueling it for 9,000.
9,000.
9,000.
Initially, you were fueling it at 4,000, 5,000.
5,000.
Now, 9,000.
Now I am actually on 9,000. The contracts are remaining the same. You cannot vary them. You know, you signed a contract for 2 years.
Yes.
How do you keep on every month? You are adjusting the contract. I can tell you right now what will happen. That organization, and it's a big organization, I'm telling you, it is either they buy their vehicles, or if not that, they are also going to lose a lot, because if I have been charging like 20,000 per student, I will now have to charge like around 30,000 per student. Do you know what that means even to the household? They are struggling to raise some money, even school fees. They have arrears in school fees. Then you are actually coming and telling them, look, you will be adding another 10,000 on what you have been paying there before, because of these issues of the cost of living. And that's why when you see the people talking about the cost of living, Ken has said something which is very good. He has said, these guys are not feeling what we are feeling at all. Why is it that they are not feeling? They have their big machines. They go to the petrol station, which is actually there.
Taken care
and
of.
They are told full tank. Do they even want to know how much? It is only that they go there full tank and they go to the other station. The vehicle is going low in fuel, again full tank. But what about Ken? You are actually trying to struggle every day. You are putting 1,000. You know 1,000 right now on petrol. How many liters are those?
It's 4 liters.
4 liters.
Yeah, it's
where
4,
will
it's
4
4 point something liters.
So
it will take you anywhere.
Where will 4 liter take you?
And you know, I have heard some of the things that the president is being told, or was told yesterday during that meeting, is that the new tax regime is really making the Kenya Kwanza government unpopular on the ground. People who woke up in the morning to go and vote for them right now are having second thoughts because they're wondering, wow, within such a short period, people are unable to feed their children. And you know, there are marriages that are breaking down right now as we speak. Because the man of the house cannot be able to provide for the house for the way he used to. So there's tension in the house. So the kind of effect that it's having is humongous. So he was being told that this thing is making you unpopular. And unfortunately, Kenyans are there are some things they will not forget. Unless towards 2027 things become so beautiful that they forget it. This is going to go down as a very bad one for the president.
Yes, I think I like what Pastor just said, that I'm listening to him as a player in the business sector. It just breaks my heart. At his level is mourning. What about the person who cannot be heard? The person who doesn't even have the energy to raise a voice, who is flat on their tummy. One of the things, granted that the current government came into
the economic
power,
situation was
we had a broken
horrible.
Infrastructure.
Yes.
We were living through beyond our means. We borrowed a lot. We got ourselves into very bad debts. We accept those things. But whatever measures the president needs to put in place, one, he has also to cut the cloth according to the size of what we have.
Yeah.
The government seems to be living its business as usual. They're asking us to tighten our belts, but then they're enlarging their belts, which is, that's why the disconnect is. So, first of all, if you have such a little, very mega things you want people to sacrifice, how are the ministers living? How are you managing? Why are we buying big cars that are fuel guzzlers? Why are we having ministers flying choppers left, right, and center? Why are we having a bloated workforce? What are we saying? Is that those austerity measures must be seen from the top. So he said, we are all in it. It can't be the public is in it. They're the ones who are telling us they will give us prescriptions. Even when a doctor walks through a hospital, he has patients who are hurting. He doesn't begin to, he has to be empathetic. Empathy is a human factor that can even walk you over certain things. So the president, austerity measures up in his place, right starting from him. And he should stop talking to Kenyans the way he does, with like, I know it, it's good for you. This is conversational. So he has to be sensitive, he has to be empathetic, and begin to also look like, even pretend that he's feeling our pain, even when he doesn't feel it. You look at the structure of his offices that he has set up. They need to be sensitive. And by the way, if I were him, unfortunately I'm not him, I will trim that cabinet and say, I cannot do this. Then put a ceiling on the the vehicles. Say, we are all going to do 1,500. The other day he drove a little doo-doo to the summit. Where are those doo-doos? Why isn't he forcing ministers to use those doo-doos? That is by decree. Yes. All ministers shall go by doo-doos to the offices. If not, they can use their private. But all government officials will use doo-doos. It's very radical, and it will happen. But why can't he do it? Because the business, the cartels that feed, the ones that bring in these vehicles, sell to government, do business, are the ones who are caught up in this thing. And tell you what, this is a very angry country, as it is now. And the anger is rising. And there is a point that when you reach, if you've punished me so much, even if you give me goodies at some minute, I'll tell you, it's okay, I'll take it, but my decision is made. And it's going to be made. And the political changes. But
how would a leader, I remember Thomas Sankara.
Yes.
Thomas Sankara comes in, tells the ministers or top government officials, we will not be using this kind of cars. We have to cut down to this so that we can also feel and also take care of the economy of the country. It tells the country we are not going to be importing food and things that we can manufacture locally. And that is done. And within a short time, the country is actually self-sufficient when it comes to food. I listened to the CS Treasury when he was summoned by Parliament. And one of the things he said that, I think he said 79.9 or 89.9% of public expenditure is actually goes to paying loans. And that's one of, it's a ridiculous rate.
Yes.
If 79, and I'm trying to remember well, did he say it's 89 or 79? But it was that high. Percent of all public expenditure goes towards paying loans. How are we going to survive like that?
Well, let me tell you, Fred. Kenya is not the only country which has been in that position. There are so many countries which were actually, even Singapore, so many countries that were actually in that kind of a situation. But it all boils on to the leadership. There are several things, and we have been told, there is a quote that says, don't preach water when you are taking wine. If you preach water, take water too.
Yes.
But don't be taking wine. Let me tell you, what is happening in this country is that we are preaching long things. We are talking about bringing the cost down, but we are escalating it on another. With this hand, we bring it down. On this hand, we bring it up.
Yes.
So there is really nothing much that we are doing. There is actually some few strategic decisions, hard decisions that need to be made. And it has happened in this Kenya actually. You remember there is a time that all the ministers, they were told, I think it is allowed 2013, 14 there. All the ministers were told, you cannot drive a vehicle which is above 2,000 cc.
Yes.
You know the cc Passats?
Yes, the Passats.
Passats, actually that whole thing came about when they looked at their budgets and they looked at the amount of money that they are spending on these high-end vehicles. And they said, we are going to list these other vehicles and we are going to procure the Passats for all the ministers. In fact, if you went on the road and you saw a Passat, you knew this is a government. It's a government thing.
Yes.
It has to get to a point whereby you say that these things, they must happen. And this is what our president and his government needs to do. They need to look at some of the costs and say, are these costs varied? Are they really supposed to be there? Let me give you a good example. This week, what were they passing? Supplementary budget.
Yes.
You know, this is actually the highest budget ever in this country. You know, now it is headed to what? 4 trillion. Actually, it is shy of a trillion by some few billions.
Yes.
Billions. It is actually headed to 4 trillion. Now, the question that we are asking ourselves, how are you going to fund this supplementary budget? One of the things I have seen, they are saying how they are going to fund.
Yes.
They have said, can I give you an example about people who are doing things the other way around? One, they are saying we are going to reduce our development budget.
Not the development budget.
Not the word and underline. We are going to reduce our development budget by 41 billion.
The development budget.
Yes, I have said underline. Underline. You know the way, you can see the way you are worried.
Yes.
Because that is one line that should not be touched.
Yes.
We should be talking about we are trying to develop the country.
Yes.
But it is one of the area they are looking at and saying we are going to reduce on that. Do you know what they are increasing? The current expenditures.
The recurrent expenditure.
The recurrent
Why in the world would you increase the recurrent expenditure and reduce and sacrifice development?
I'll give you the reason as to why. Because they want to live large. They want to live their life the way they live. They want to be given their allowances. When they go for the meetings, they want to pocket their allowances. They want their salaries to be paid on time.
Yes.
They want their guzzlers to be fueled. They want their trips to be covered for. Every other thing that touches them, they want to maintain as is, if not making it better. And that's where we are saying what is happening is this country is that we are sinking instead of moving forward. And why we are sinking is, one, and it is true, and you'll go and you'll realize what is happening. The systems and the processes in this country are very bad.
Yes.
You know, yesterday when the Prime Minister was talking about demarriage, demarriage rising from 45,000, you know, he talked about 45 to 70.
What, for lay people, what is demarriage?
Demarriage,
Yes.
you see, if, for example, you bring a vessel from Dubai,
Yes.
and it exceeds the days that it is supposed to be there, you are charged a cost.
Yes.
That cost, what is happening is that, one, that cost has gone high. The same way the ID, they were proposing that if you are actually going to
If you
acquire
lose it, you pay 2,000.
So the same kind of a thing is happening there. They are escalating those costs. But do you know where that cost is coming to? It is coming to the formula of the fuel and the products. It is actually the Kenyan people who are actually paying for the inefficiency of this government. And that's why you are saying, I'm saying, unless the president goes and he says there are some things we are not going to accept. Can I be explained why a vessel should actually stay for longer than how it is supposed to be there?
Because that simply shows that there are inefficiencies at the port.
Correct.
That's the point. That means the systems are
So
clogged.
why not take care of the inefficiencies instead of punishing the victims of the inefficiencies
So where
at the
does
port?
demarriage go to?
It goes to the government.
No, not to the government. It goes, some of these costs, they are purely going to some areas you cannot account for.
And those areas, Fred, are like this. If somebody, you're creating a very ripe environment for corruption. Because somebody is going to say, if you give me this little money, I'll just clear the ship.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. So I have to say this, that one of the things we are lamenting a lot. We know one of the things that has happened is that Kenya is at its lowest in production. In fact, we are doing zero production. But our consumption is up. So how do you spur consumption? By putting money where it is. But you have to do a very delicate balancing thing. You don't completely dry this out and increase, switch it to this point. And we need to have an honest conversation. I have this feeling, and I may be wrong,
Yes.
that the president has a team that cannot think on its own. Could it be that they are incapable of doing things? Could it be that it is his persona? Is he a control freak? He wants to get his fingers everywhere. Can he delegate more? For example, when he's traveling out there, does he need to travel? Can he not? He has a Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Yes.
They speak on him, on his behalf. And when they're out there with technology, he can still follow the meetings and say, and prompt so that his message is passed. He doesn't have to charter a flight to go with all those things. So what we are saying, it needs to live within our systems. Granted that we know that our economy is broken, we know that we are not generating new jobs, we are not doing things, but we need to be realistic. And debt as it is, we know was very bad. And once it's bad, that brings you the thing. But it's not an excuse for you to kill people and have corpses around. You know, you can be walking, but you are a corpse. You've no feelings, you're gone. This is where most of us are going to be zombies. We have been zombified. These things. You know, at our level, we are still saying feeling the pinch.
Yes.
And what happens, the little that we earn, I'm getting dragged down. So I can't be on my feet because there are people below me who need my relatives, the kind of, you check your messages these days, the people who are looking for help, crying for help. And where do you get it from? Happy and lucky if you have a job, some income. But if you do not have, people have expectations
Yes.
that Ken is somewhere.
Yes.
Ken looks like this.
Yes.
He's the boy who has always helped us.
Yes.
Why can't he help us now?
Yes.
And they will not think about your status.
Mhm.
So this, what we need to do, is a sobering moment. And we have a chance to speak. And Kenyans listen. We talked about the maize production. It went up. What else are we sparring?
Yes.
We can do sectorally. We can't lump everything and push them into the pipeline at the same time. We have to be strategic in the way we do that. And this
We
is going to-
look at food, take care of food, then
the next one.
And one of the things, just switching back to the oil industry, the consumption of fuel has actually gone down.
It
In
is
the
going-
sense that the number of people who are now using fuel the way they used, it has gone down. So even whatever they were supposed to collect out of the fuel levy is not hitting the targets they
Can I
wanted.
give you the figures?
Yes.
So that we speak even on figures.
Yes.
Do you know, for the last like 4 months,
Yes.
the consumption of fuel and even the importation of vehicles has come down by 186 billion.
186 billion.
186 billion. And that's why we are saying some of the things that this government is doing, are they rechecking whether they are adding value to the country or they are bringing.
186,
Yes,
that's a lot
I'm
of
not
money.
talking about a year.
Yes.
I am telling
4
you
months.
about 4 months. 186 billion. That is something that is actual. People, do you know, today if I want to go to my home, I actually think twice. Do I really have to go? Or can I talk to my mom? Or can I even send money through M-Pesa?
Yeah.
Is it, if for example,
necessary for me to go?
necessary for me to go? If I talk to mom and I feel mom is comfortable and she is telling me, son, continue.
Yes.
Continue. I'm happy with you.
Yes.
Sometimes I will actually delay like a month and I go the other month.
Yes.
Because I know the implication of
Yes.
going there. So
Yes.
what is it that means to the government? Is that the consumption
Yes.
in terms of the oil, the fuel, is coming down.
Yes.
Because it is not only me. Even
Yeah.
Ken will actually
It's
say,
true.
before I make that decision of traveling.
You ask yourself so many questions.
Yes.
I just wanted to say this.
Yes.
There is something called those austerities we're doing at our measures. But this is another index people forget that sparse production
Yes.
and it really makes a country a viable entity.
Yes.
The happiness.
Oh, yeah.
If you are not happy, if I can't see my mom,
Yeah.
I can't fix her. But there is an element if I am able to see and sit down with her.
Yes.
So that happiness that we are so sad, we are so squeezed. So that is also eating, stressing us and eating into our energies to produce and to think and be creative. So from all sides,
Yes.
you are unhappy, you are squeezed and everything. So everything is, there's a dark cloud hanging over ourselves.
Yes.
And you gave an example of that company that you are supplying, you will not supply them. You say that they are likely to suffer. The next consequence, that company, because it wants to remain in business, will take flight, will go and find a new ecosystem where it will be able to survive.
Sure.
And that, it works directly against what we're calling the encouragement, traveling to encourage FDIs, foreign direct investments.
Yes. Correct.
So, like you're saying, you are showing happiness, but we are busy shooting ourselves in the foot every single second. And that is what has to stop. And the president has to stop, listen, talk less,
Yes.
and delegate more. Let's see him thinking through this process as a country. Project Kenya.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let me see as I adjust your seat. I had asked a question whether people agree with Raila that Kenyans are being ripped off in the oil sector. And I see Mika saying he's totally right on this. Why would oil prices keep increasing while internationally we are seeing a decrease? Why all this drama with the poster lady on the 17th billion oil right now? Something is happening and the government is in it. Then we have Alice who says, I agree with Baba, we can't be the only country where oil prices are always going up and never going down. And at this point, they should spare us. We are suffering as citizens of this nation. Humphrey says nice. Then we have Lennox who says the show is really amazing, but the government is more than amazing to make sure we suffer. So I agree with Baba. Then we have Kate, I didn't expect this government to be like this. And you say, yes, I agree. Hawa jamaa wanatumaliza. Then we have Dennis who says Honorable Raila has a point. We all know the fuel price is supposed to be shifting downwards, but instead it's vice versa. Only in Kenya, there must be something that the government is doing. We're being ripped. We have Terian Mwihaki who says we are simply being ripped in every sector. Alan, you say nice conversation. Then we have Phil Bwayenda, you say you are following. Very interesting comments about what is happening in the country. As we bring the curtains down on the show, as a leader, if you are the president of this country at a time like this and you're having a meeting with your cabinet secretaries who are supposed to be executing the vision that you have for the country, what would you do? Basically, what would you do? Let me start with you, Ken, and then I go to.
First, before I say what the president needs to do, the energy sector, globally we are in a transition.
Mm-hmm.
We are moving from the fossil fuels to clean, greener energy.
Mm-hmm.
So how is that beneficial? Kenya has abundance of green, clean, renewable energy.
Yes.
Are we seeing the government making deliberate steps towards that?
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's mere talk.
Mm-hmm.
Because you look at the electricity costs, you look at the now blackouts. You know, we've gone back to the blackout era.
Mm-hmm.
We had forgotten about blackouts. These days, I live in the city. I only get water twice.
Mm-hmm.
And
you only get water twice.
And in all estates, Buruburu, Jericho, and all those, water was 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
But that is now being rationed.
Mm-hmm.
So everything else is done. So that transition, the president has an opportunity, the government has an opportunity. As the fossil fuels are getting more expensive, we should be seeing a breather transitioning us to new energy. So you say, if I were the president, I'll listen more. I'll try and establish austerity measures within government. Two, I think he has, for lack of a better word, he has a lot of showmanship, especially at the heart of the civil service. When I see Kosgei talk, it doesn't inspire confidence. He's himself. Last night I said he's firing these memos for people to go home. Perhaps he should fire one towards himself. We need somebody at the heart of the civil service who inspires confidence, like Mudaura. A person who is not there also to prosper. A person who is there to serve his country. We need somebody like Kenya type.
Yes.
Somebody who can stabilize that thing. I think this is what the president is lacking. Somebody who stabilizes the civil service, who call everybody to order, and even call him to order. Because he needs to be called to order from time to time. Sometimes he's going overboard. Look at the example where he said about El Nino. Did he have to talk about El Nino?
No.
Does he need to talk about everything? Listen, be more empathetic to people, and begin to feel or even pretend to be part of the pain they're going. Walk with your people. You are a Kenyan. When you're a leader, you are a one among equals. But the way his government has been structured, it lives above everybody else. He should walk with us and should listen more, should embrace more people. And if there is need to cut down on expenditure, on development, we must see that money saved. We must see that we saved 200 million shillings from here. This is where it went to alleviate these things. But we are not seeing that tracking. In fact, we begin to think that whatever is being stopped from there is ending up in private pockets. There is a general feeling that there is a lot of pilfering in public service, in the common sector. There are too many people cutting deals. And then two, you have a country that is very diverse.
Yes.
Create a diverse governance system. This I call it, for lack of a better word, and I'm sorry I'm using it, it's very naive for people to talk about these are the people who voted. Kenya is everybody.
Yes.
And you
Yes.
become president,
You become the
not
president,
the president of all, even those who did not. But the composition of the government itself does not inspire a lot of confidence. Too many boys from around his club, too many allies, and he needs to spread this thing so that other people bring in diversity that can countermand certain behavior that we are seeing in government. This, for lack of a better word, is not a regional or ethnic government. It's a government of all Kenyans. Let's all be part of it and listen more.
Okay.
On top of what Ken has said, two more things. Number one, corruption. It is not a statement when you hear a president say that 2 billion
It's lost every
is
day.
lost every day. When a president, the head of state, says that, it is actually something that is factual. There is actually truth in that. Some of the monies that we are actually looking for is actually locked in these corrupt deals. If I were the president today, I would actually even say, for the time being, I will actually fight corruption head on. Some of the issues like these ones which they are touching on corruption that we hear, let people step aside until it is proven 100% that you are not involved. First of all, sit there. Don't take that salary.
Yes.
And you know, he need now to make a drastic kind of decisions whereby we will say, if, for example, today, let's say even 1 billion is lost every day, let's say even it is 1 billion.
Yes.
How much money are we talking about? 300 billion. Was it necessary for us to go and do the supplementary budget? The answer is no. The supplementary budget would actually have gotten enough money to do this, because I can tell you there is a big lot in the government, you know, departments and every other thing. And it is 100%. There is that. And if there is anything, if the president want to win, and you have given me that mandate for a few seconds, I would actually tackle that in a very big way. Corruption. Number two, last week we talked about the Maslow hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
If, for example, I cannot feed myself, stop telling me about new clothes. Stop telling me about new houses. What I need at that particular moment is, the Maslow talks about 5 levels. Right now, the level we are talking about is food, security, housing. Not housing, this one we are talking about.
Yes.
At least you have somewhere to sleep. It is not even owning. Owning is actually a far-fetched kind of a thing. It's whereby I can have a place I call my habitat. What we are saying is, these things that they are talking about right now, they may not be very important. What we need a country that is able to feed itself. Let everybody in this country be able to feed. If there is any money that need to be taken down, it is actually for ensuring that the Kenyan people can have 1 or 2 good meals.
Yes.
The number 2 is that the Kenyan people can be able to be treated. Do you know how many people are dying today?
Simply because they cannot access.
They cannot access.
They cannot
Dispensary is
afford.
here. Yes, dispensary is here. Does it have medicine? It is actually just buildings which are being built here, very big buildings and good buildings. We don't need buildings. What we need is stock. Stock the places. Even if it is here, come here, put a container. And you say this is actually a government facility where you can actually, once you have been diagnosed and all this, there is a place you go and get your medicine. These are the things that we need. All these other things that the government is doing, they are not helping the Kenyan people. Can they listen to the Kenyan people and meet the needs of the Kenyan people?
All right.
Fred, can I just, one thing, if the president is listening, President William Samoei Ruto was elected for 5 years. His contract is within 5 years. He cannot begin to think beyond that. He must do the 5 years. We'll judge him after 5 years. That 5 years. The rest is just illusional and a dream.
Okay. Right now in the country, I know it is the most difficult situation for a leader to get into. The economy was messed up, and like they were saying that almost 79.9% of the public expenditure is going to paying loans, which is a very bad state. So give it to him. He took the government at a time when things were crazy due to actions or sins of the past regimes. But whatever they do right now, they must remember that there are people who are slowly falling off. Life is becoming so difficult. There are people who are walking around very depressed. I've met some of them. I had an opportunity to talk to young girls the other day. And if you listen to the conversation, these young girls who are transitioning now to secondary school, some of the things that they are saying, you're shocked, because the level of suicidal thoughts, very, very high. Depression, very, very high. Why is this happening? Because of things that are happening at home. They can see their parents struggling, and as their parents struggle, the relationship is breaking down. And you know, kids, they want a very stable place at home. As the economy goes down, families are being pressed so hard that the relationships between the husbands and the wife are starting to crack up. And the children can clearly see this. So it's not just financial, it affects even the social aspect of this country. So see what you can do, Mr. President, ease the burden. Spread it so that it's not too heavy on people, because maybe by the time you're done restoring the country, you would have lost some of the people out of this country. Do have yourself a lovely one.